He stopped crying. And at that moment, I realized my son had died. Because she had awakened in his eyes. When the dead returned, they don't come for revenge. They come for the body. Her body was dead, but her rage was alive. That night, I realized I hadn't given birth to a child. I had given birth to an entrance.
Chapter 1.
Mafia King Jae-won raised his fork. But Aaliyah, the mother of his heir, saw the vision of black vein crawling up his arm. She wasn't a waitress, she was an oracle, and saving his life meant exposing the curse she carried.
The vision was not a flicker. It was a physical violation, a cold spike of knowledge driven through her skull. The vein pulsed beneath his skin, a thread of living shadow fed by the ornate dish before him. It was not poison for the body. It was corruption for the soul, a magical attack aimed at the heart of his bloodline. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drum in the gilded cage of his penthouse. To stay silent was a temptation. Let the curse take root. Let it weaken him. A weakened king might loosen his grip, might let her and their son disappear from this world of silent violence in tailored suits. But the vision sharpened. The black vein reached his heart, and the future fractured into 1,000 images of decay, of an empire crumbling, of their son caught in the ensuing slaughter. The choice was not a choice. It was a sentence. If you feel that cold dread creeping up your spine, if you know this is more than just another mafia story, then prove you belong in the inner circle. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. The war for this dynasty has just begun. Aaliyah stood. The movement was a ripple in the room's perfect stillness. Crystal glasses paused halfway to lips. The low hum of conversation faltered. Zaewon's eyes, chips of obsidian, lifted from his plate to her face. He did not ask a question. His gaze was a demand. Her throat was dry. "The service is wrong," she said, her voice a low tremor. It was a pathetic excuse, a waitress's complaint in the face of damnation. His expression did not change. He was a predator who had never known fear, and he did not recognize its scent on her. He gestured with his fork, a silent order to explain. She took a step forward, her hand instinctively going to the heavy brass bracelet on her wrist, its ancient symbols a useless comfort. "The plate," she said, her voice gaining a sliver of strength. "It's tainted." Before he could respond, before his guards could decide she was a threat, a sound ripped through the elegant quiet. A scream, a high, piercing shriek of pure agony, broadcast from the baby monitor on the nearby sideboard. It was the sound of their son. Chapter 2, They Moved as One. Ji-won was a blur of controlled violence, overturning his chair as he sprinted from the room. Aaliyah was right behind him, the opulent dining hall dissolving into a tunnel of her own terror. They burst into the nursery, a room of soft blues and handcrafted woods that now felt like a torture chamber. Their son was in his crib, his small body rigid, his back arched in a bow of unnatural pain. He was not crying. He was screaming, a continuous inhuman wail that seemed to tear from the very fabric of the air. Jae-won stopped dead. He stared at his heir, his perfect dynasty, convulsing in the grip of an invisible enemy. Then slowly he turned his head. He looked at Aaliyah. The brief flicker of concern he'd shown in the dining room was gone. In its place was something far colder, a calculation, a brutal, terrifying logic. He was a man who understood cause and effect, threats and responses. She had spoken of a taint. And now his son was tainted. His eyes narrowed. "What did you do?" The question was not an accusation of malice. It was a verdict of contamination. He saw her not as a savior, but as a source of infection, a dangerous variable. He stepped forward, his movements fluid and precise. He lifted their son from the crib. The baby's screams did not cease. Ji-won turned his back to her, creating a wall with his own body. Two of his men appeared in the doorway, their faces impassive masks. They did not touch her. They did not threaten. They simply existed, blocking her path. The golden cage had just become a steel trap. "Take her to the West Wing," Jae-won commanded, his voice devoid of all emotion. "Ensure she is comfortable, and ensure she does not leave." They escorted her away, down silent marble corridors. Her mind was a storm of failure and horror. She had tried to stop the curse. Instead, she had made it miss. She had saved the king only to damn the prince. They left her in a suite that was larger than her old apartment, a prison of silk and glass. A massive screen on the wall flickered to life. It was a live feed from the nursery. She could see her son, still twisting in agony. She could watch, but she could not touch. Her breath caught in a sob as the camera zoomed in. On her baby's perfect, soft arm, just below the elbow, a faint line was forming, a dark, ugly thread. The black vein had found a new host. Chapter 3. Hours bled into a formless gray of despair. Aaliyah sat on the floor, her eyes locked on the screen, a helpless goddess watching her world burn. The vein on her son's arm darkened, no longer a faint line but a stark black mark of possession. On the feed, she saw a team of doctors, the best Jae-won's money could buy, surrounding the crib. They were useless. Their science was a child's toy against this ancient hunger. Ji-won stood in the corner of the nursery, a statue of powerless rage. His empire could topple nations, but it could not soothe the cries of his own son. Then a new sound entered the room. A whisper. It did not come from the screen speakers. It slithered directly into Aaliyah's mind, cold and clear as ice. A mother's love is such a predictable weakness. Aaliyah froze. She knew that voice. It was the ghost that haunted Jae-won's life. The ghost he thought was dead. A shimmering distortion appeared on the screen, coalescing beside the crib. Minso, his first wife. Her form was translucent, her face a mask of serene, predatory beauty. She leaned over the screaming infant, her expression one of cruel satisfaction. "You see," the voice in Aaliyah's head continued, "the curse was never for the king. Why would I destroy the throne? I only wanted the heir." The truth landed with the force of a physical blow. This was not an assassination, it was an eviction. Minso's spirit wanted a body, and the blood of the king was the perfect key. The attack on Jae-won was a feint, a diversion designed to make Aaliyah reveal her hand and trigger the chaos needed for the curse to ricochet. Minso looked directly into the security camera, her cold eyes piercing through the lens, through the screen, and into Aaliyah's soul. This was the moment, the viral anchor of pure malice. "You thought you were a queen protecting a king," Minso purred. "You were just the key that unlocked my son's cage for me." In his own command center, Ji-won saw the impossible image on his monitor, the ghost of his wife. The truth struck him like a bullet. He had been fighting the wrong war all along. On the screen, Minso reached out a spectral hand and touched the baby's forehead. The screaming stopped. Instantly, a dead silence fell. The baby's body went limp, his eyes fluttering open. But they were not the eyes of an infant. They glowed with a faint, cold, and utterly alien light. Chapter 4. Ji-won moved. The paralysis of shock shattered, replaced by the cold clarity of a warlord facing total annihilation. His guns were useless. His men were irrelevant. His empire was a fortress of sand against a tidal wave of magic. He had only one weapon left. He found Aaliyah on the floor, her face a mask of broken horror. He did not speak. He simply unlocked the door and stood aside. The gesture was not forgiveness. It was desperation. He was no longer her captor. He was a beggar. And in that moment of utter defeat, Aaliyah saw the path. The curse was a chain, a conduit connecting Minso to their son. She could not break it. but maybe she could pull it. She looked from the screen to Jaewon, her eyes burning with a new, terrifying resolve. She knew the price. She had paid it once before in a storm on the shores of Lagos. She would pay it again. She closed her eyes, ignoring the room, ignoring Jaewon. She focused on the brand on her shoulder, the spiraling shell that bound her to the goddess Yemoja. She focused on her son. She did not plead. She did not bargain. She commanded, "He is mine." The air in the room grew heavy, cold. The lights flickered violently. Aaliyah let out a strangled cry as an agony beyond description tore through her. On the screen, the black vein on her son's arm began to recede. It was a slow, torturous retreat. Minso's spirit shrieked, a sound of pure fury as her connection was severed. Aaliyah convulsed on the floor, her own arm now exposed. A thick, black line burned its way across her skin, a river of darkness searing itself into her flesh. She was taking the curse into herself. She was becoming the vessel. Minso's form flickered, dissolved, and vanished with a final echoing wail of hatred. Aaliyah collapsed, breathing in ragged gasps, victorious and forever changed. Jaewon rushed to her side, his face a mixture of awe and fear. He saw the ugly, pulsating mark on her arm. He understood the sacrifice. She had not just saved his son, she had saved his soul. She pushed herself up, her body screaming in protest, and walked on trembling legs to the screen. The feed showed their son, sleeping peacefully, his skin clear, his breathing even. She had won. But she was now the keeper of the curse. Later, when the unnatural quiet had settled over the penthouse, she held him in her arms. He was warm, real, safe. Jaewon stood beside her, the silence between them no longer one of distrust, but of a terrifying new alliance. The baby stirred, his eyes opening. For a fraction of a second, they flashed with the same black energy that now lived in her arm. He looked past her, toward the window, and spoke a single guttural word in a language that had been dead for 1,000 years. At that exact instant, Jaehwan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, a single text from his head of security. His chief rival, the leader of the Yakuza syndicate, was dead. A massive, inexplicable cardiac event. Jaewon looked at the message, then at his son, then at Aaliyah. Her eyes met his, and in their depths, he saw a new, chilling power. "The debt," she whispered, "is paid." What happens when a king's greatest weapon is the woman he can no longer control? Smash that like button and debate in the comments who the new target should be. Share this with a friend who knows that power always has a price.